Hey guys, welcome back to Between the Apexes with Dr. Speed Lemon, Hoggdust, and Tim Mackie. It's been a while and an exciting race, man. I can't wait to talk about it. I guess just moving down the order of events, let's talk about the race winner, Marco Bezzecchi. Man, I think he's doing great. He's coming up fast, and if Aeneas or Pecco's not careful, he might end up on the factory seat. What's your guys' thoughts?
I think he's definitely the fastest second tier Ducati rider for sure. Bezecchi's clearly the guy right now. Marini, not so close. And, Martin, we could talk about him as a separate story with his eyes on Yamaha, maybe, maybe not. Yeah, I think Bezecchi is definitely the heir apparent for that factory Ducati seat when it becomes available.
Yeah, I think Bez he's got really great natural talent. I don't know if he's the fastest yet because all these guys are in those development stages. I would say at the moment, so we don't know how that step's going to come. But I have seen those signs of brilliance where they click really well. He put it in the 131 halfway through the race, so he's got the ability to do really well in low traction tracks. So that's an advantage. Um, but yeah, we'll play it out. But so far, he's pretty awesome.
I know Pecco's scared because of that comment he said. No, I know something might have got lost in translation, but man, saying the factory guys are too close or the satellite guys are too close to the factory guys and they need 0.6 of a second. I don't know what that's all about, but I can tell you it has to do with him being scared because he's scared of the up and coming talent.
Yeah, he riled a lot of folks up with that comment. Especially, it was fun reading Hervé Poncherel's response to that, especially. But yeah, to your point, yeah, I think maybe Martin is consistently a little bit quicker than Bezecchi, but Martin with his size and fragility, and if it was me right now, I kind of put the money on Bezecchi, honestly. But Martin is really starting to come around. We talked a few times back about him stopping crashing, and I think he's seems to have done that. The way he dealt with Mark calmly, made a few attempts, and then got it done at the right time was really nice to see for him. But yeah, to your point, Dustin, I think maybe Martin is on the average quicker than Bezecchi, but
Mm-hmm.
man, Bezecchi, when he's flying, isn't he?
Yeah, like you were saying, and the way I put that scenario in my head is if we had Bez and Jorge fighting Mark, I think Jorge would have done the better job, like he proved that he did. So I would kind of edge out Jorge Martin as far as the satellite guys go as fast as Ducatis, but we just don't know quite yet because he's very inconsistent. But I think if he could put it together, that's the dude right there.
Yeah, for sure, those two guys. And then back to that comment by Pecco.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely gave me some pause for thought on how that all goes. I remember back in the day, sometimes guys wanted to jump teams to get on equal equipment because they wanted to beat the guy on the same equipment. I remember when Wayne Rainey had Eddie Lawson join his team in '90. The world champion was coming to his team, and he relished it. He's all, "We're going to find out because we're going to be on equal equipment." So it's kind of an opposite sentiment from what I'm used to hearing from guys in the past, and some of what I was reading too. He got a podium as a rookie on a satellite bike. So some of the critiques that he's had, he's benefited from himself when he was coming up. So
And what I would like to add with Pecco and his remarks, he is clearly not cut from the same cloth as Valentino Rossi. So I was telling Speed Limit the other day, I was like, out of all the VR46 guys, he's my least favorite, and now I know why. Because if you're going to be a real champion, you should always accept the ability to go toe to toe like a true gladiator, like they are. So it's like, come on, man, step it up. You don't want everyone if you want to be the real deal, like you want to be level playing field and prove to everybody that you're the best.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that maybe it was a Spanish interview. He's an Italian speaker. Maybe something there was lost in translation.
oh, I don't think those six or
No.
seven tenths were lost in translation.
No. You know what I love though? I loved how MotoGP they took all those clips and they published it everywhere so everyone saw it.
Oh yeah.
Well, drama
Yeah.
makes clicks. So
Yeah.
Well, listen, when it comes to Pecco, I think I said this last year. He's the fastest of the Ducati riders, right? But I don't think he's a standout, shoulders above everyone talent like Fabio or Marquez or that. He's clearly, Jack said, you know, we all look at his data, and he just does it better than we do on the entry and in the corners. He is the best of the Ducati riders, but I don't think he's this super skilled cut above guy. He's just a little bit better than the rest, I think. Um,
Very
Not to
good.
deep the guy, he's a world champion, first guy to do it since Casey, and I think still every weekend he's the guy to beat. But again, I don't see it as this force that Marquez was on the Honda or Rossi was on the Yamaha with him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say, speaking of riders that are a cut above the rest, Brad Binder. He kind of has that Casey Stoner-esque slide the bike around, ride it over its capabilities, style. I feel like if he were on any other bike but the KTM, he could show us something even more. But he'll never complain about the KTM because it's just not in his character.
Yeah, and I think he's there at the right time now. I wouldn't be leaving either. And there's something nice about being the only manufacturer on the grid with a chromoly frame versus all the aluminums too. I like the way they go about their business. I I wasn't a fan of Ducati going the twin spar aluminum route at Rossi's request. You know, Ducati's identity was always that chromoly trellis frame at the time, and Nicky Hayden said the one frame he got to test and never actually got to see it again was the carbon fiber one. And he said he dug that. So again, it's nice to see KTM do it a little differently from all the other manufacturers and be up at the front now. So
Yeah.
they've got no reason not to attract top riders right now.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of Brad Bender. In fact, out of all the guys that are on the grid, the most entertaining guy to me is Brad Bender. I feel like just his riding style and his ability to just keep pushing it and be consistent like he's shown he is. Like he's actually one of my favorites now for the championship. If he could hold it together and just keep going, I'm like, man, that would be insane.
Absolutely. And where is he right now? He's fourth in the
I think he's third.
third with 81 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's smoking right now. So, yeah, if you were to go after hours with a beer with a team, it'd definitely be Miller and that guy, right?
yeah.
Those two guys would be a lot of fun to
For sure.
go swill a beer with. But I think the two people kicking themselves have got to be his teammate Jack Miller and Alicia Spargaro right now. Talk about opportunities missed for both gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I was real happy for Zarco to be able to podium in front of his home crowd. And of course, that was all because of the Payco Maverick incident. Now, I know I know you guys want to say that, Maverick did a clean pass and got Payco. But if you look at Maverick's line coming into that double apex, he's real close on the inside of that second line, where I would say the line's more outside to hit that second apex the way you want to. So I could see how Payco probably thought he drove too far in on that first corner and then kind of stuck it that way and was just going to take a nice shallow line in. So I mean, I wouldn't put blame on any particular person, but I would say that it was just, it's a racing incident. Two guys going after the same piece of tarmac.
I would agree, but I would give it a 60-40 split in favor of Maverick with the 40% responsibility. He was in front. I did read some of the old Salt pundits out there this week, and I think even, again, might be lost in translation, but I think even Pecco's comments were maybe I could have done this a little different. I think he has accepted some culpability there. But, straight up racing incident, right? It almost happened with two other riders in that corner in the same race. One thing I saw Marquez do again, and what he does, and I think it was in that corner, I could be wrong, but he'll always put it where it's up to you to back off or crash. And that kind of reminds me a little bit of that, where Pecco, I think, just should have rolled a hair and let him have it. It was a great clean pass. It's a dodgy place to try and ride around the outside. Going around the outside of any rider is always iffy.
Yeah.
So,
But how about
racing incident.
what would you say about Maverick's behavior though? Hitting a man. Now I know hitting is a strong word, but hitting a man while he's still down. He hit him in his arm and then again in his helmet.
Yeah, red mist for me. I've been around watching this sport for decades, and I've seen far worse than that on many, many occasions. I don't know if you guys remember when Anthony Fania got drop kicked. Literally, I forget which rider it was, but ran over to him and I think it was Aaron Yates, put 2 feet in his chest. The guy climbs, just stood up after tangling and crashing, and Aaron Yates runs over and drop kicks him UFC style. So
But did you hear
I've
that,
seen it
Tim? You
all.
said he stood up and hit him in the chest. You know what I mean? You just don't hit
He
a man
kicked
while
him.
he's on the ground. You wait till he gets up,
Yeah,
then you hit
look,
him. You know, he's on his feet. He can at least
Yeah.
stand.
So I
that's a
like
low bar. That's a low bar for a hit. Plus, look, I'm not going to judge it. I don't think I'm going to put too much on Maverick for that.
Mhm.
You don't know what was being said either. I mean, if Mav had walked up and he's got blood pouring out his nose and is groaning, it probably might have been different. I
we
don't
did
know.
we
You
did
didn't
see
get to hear it all. You didn't get to hear everything, right?
we did see Pecco kind of look up and look down. I'm like, what did he say? Like, what
I'm
happened?
sure it started out with a "Mamma Mia."
Not to stray too far off course, but that's where a lot of the interpretation of Rossi kicking Marquez in 15 comes from. As far as I'm concerned, I'll never be convinced. His leg came off after contact. I've seen riders kick other riders. It's demonstrative. You pull your leg back and give the guy a boot.
Yeah,
I've
but
seen
that's not going to
riders
push
punch
you
each
off
other
the
riders.
bike.
Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of like that. I've seen so many gravel trap scuffles that was just one more. And interesting that we've had a few of those this year in the lower classes, and there's been penalties, but there wasn't for this. And I think it was because of the love fest on the scooter on the way back to the box.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad there wasn't any penalties. I actually think the stewards are getting a little carried away with all these penalties and getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it should be like prison ball, but at the same time, I don't think race direction needs to be determining the race. I'm happy Bez was able to give up a place and come back and win the race. But at the same time, like, I don't see why he should have even had to give up the place. You know what I mean? Like,
They have been, the stewards and Freddie Spencer's commission. They've been really weird this year. It's kind of blown my mind away again too. I think the penalty that Pecco got when Miller waved was because Miller waved literally, and then you look at Binder this week. He didn't fully understand that he had to drop a second back from his average lap time. It's a little confusing when you're giving that up. He ran off, cut the chicane or cut the track early, and then thought he'd given the appropriate amount of time back and hadn't. So, I agree with Marc Marquez. I think the only penalty I've seen thus far this year was his. I think all the other stuff has been kind of the nature of the beast right now. It's so hard to get by. You're going to have a little tap. Now, what changes it though is in the past, if you pushed a guy wide and then you went, he had the ability to come back up and pass you. With aero and everything now, it's so much more difficult that if you push a guy off wide, it'll take him 10 laps just to get back to you. And then passing's a whole other story. So
Speaking of that, that's exactly what happened to Bender in the race.
yeah, that's crazy how different the racing has changed in this aero era for sure. It has shifted. Everything's changed. And with the sprints too now, feels like such a completely revamped sport this year. It really does.
well, then we have Aloysius Espargo. You think it's going to be his last year?
He says it's not going to be his last year. Like, if he feels competitive at a high level, he wants to keep racing. But in a way, I feel like Muegllo Oliveira should get that seat.
Yeah, or maybe Marquez wants to jump teams and hop on the Aprilia.
I think he'd like the KTM more than the Aprilia, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, Danny did design the KTM, and he was Danny's teammate for a while, so he probably might gel with it a little bit better. But the Aprilia just seems like an all-around better bike.
The thing that I was shocked with was Aleix couldn't get past Augusto Fernandez in this race. And just basically was like, this guy's fast.
Yeah, and everyone's taking credit away from Augusto Fernandez for that, but I think he's just a fast rookie. The guy's fast. I don't think that the bikes or the satellite team have anything to do with the man's ability to ride the bike. I think he might not show us too much this year, but I think we're going to see some great things from him maybe the following year once he gets used to the bike, or maybe towards the end of the year.
Absolutely, and credit to Aleix. He said he wasn't going to put a pass on him and ruin that young man's day. Very much a different approach than, say, a Marc Marquez to that situation. So again, I like Aleix. I just wished he had fallen off a little bit less like Jack this year, because those two guys could be right in the mix.
Absolutely. And then Quartararo, it's painful to see Quartararo on that Yamaha. I mean, I want him to do something, especially in his hometown. And Le Mans is typically a Yamaha track because there's not a whole lot of big straights for the other riders to use that speed advantage. So I don't know what's going on there.
Well, it's the engine. From what I read, it's the engine. They got more power out of it, but it's affected other areas. Everything's interrelated. You can't just say, "Hey, I'm going to add 20 more horsepower to this." It affects so many other things, and it's not just the horsepower, but the rideability of that horsepower. Right? He finally said, "We've gone back to 2021 settings, and we're not going to touch anything anymore." He's just been a kid in a maze trying to find his way out. They have thrown so many settings at that Yamaha, 22 settings, new settings. So he came out last week and said, "We're freezing with 2021 settings, and I'm just going to start riding the thing and fine tuning it." But I think they're just outclassed, as is Honda, by the European manufacturers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think Yamaha's got a chance this season, unfortunately. And I think Fabio's probably one of the best riders on the grid, and he's not going to be able to showcase that skill because of Yamaha's current issue. So,
Yeah, I would agree. I think Fabio has got the same kind of front end feel and talent as Marc Marquez. I think Fabio is the other real superstar on our grid.
yeah, I
It's a
agree.
shame to see him struggling like this.
Yeah, and I don't see him sticking around. There's no way he's got to be eyeing other bikes and other manufacturers at this point.
Yeah, if Aprilia decides to open his seat, Fabio's the guy they should go after over Marc Marquez.
Yeah, silly season's going to be crazy with Jorge Martin also trying to jump ship. I mean,
And look what Jack Miller did. He dropped a carrot and a bomb for everybody. "Hey, if you don't like your bike, change it." I mean, that was just hilarious. He came out and said that.
I like he's like, stop whining about it. Just go ride a different bike.
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
like
it
Miller.
will be a fun, silly season for sure. Especially, I think the kingpin on that is what does Marquez do? Does he stay at Honda or does he look elsewhere?
Yeah,
We're going to have to see what that Calyx frame and the rest of the year holds for us. So
but is an aging Marc Marquez really the kingpin? Like, I don't
Yes.
see him.
Yes.
You think Ducati would open the door for him? They have so much young and up and coming talent. I don't know why they would.
Anybody would be crazy not to give Marquez opportunity on their bike. Marquez,
yeah, I think he's still got the cachet, Dustin. You're right.
and I'm wearing this hat for a reason, even though, I can't stand the guy, but I respect his talent. The guy he's been gone for, he's got one race, right? He's back on a new chassis that he's never ridden, jumps on the bike and just starches people. I mean, he's in there fighting the podium right away. Like, that's just pure talent.
I can't disagree with you there. And if you look at the other Honda riders, Nakagami, Rins, and Mir, they're just in the gravel. So, I mean, he's...
And Mir had the Calyx chassis too at Le Mans. So he's just trying to get out of here without having to take antidepressants this year. That's what Mir's working on. So
Yeah, Honda's going to be in a weird situation. They're going to have like 2 open seats and nobody's going to want them. So it's going to be like, who would have ever thought that?
Yeah.
back to Martin. I mean, his only option is staring at that Yamaha. And man, it's interesting that you'd actually maybe stay with a satellite Ducati over a factory Yamaha. And who can imagine saying that, right?
He should stay, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like Valentino. He's not gonna give up his Ducati rides for another satellite make. I mean, he's doing good on that bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at Bezecchi, man. Second in the championship on VR46, so he's got to be really happy with that. The big disappointment is obviously Aprilia, right? They've just missed it. Maverick with his starts, and I think that's again why he was so darn upset. He knew he was on for it. He finally got a start. He didn't get a red flag after this one because he's had some bad luck come his way with the starts, and I don't think Maverick's comfortable with the hargy-bargy in turns 1 and 2. So he tends to go backwards a little bit. So I think that's why he was so upset. He was really on for it in Le Mans.
Tim, you are a really loyal fan. I can't believe you're still thinking Maverick has some sort of ability. I know he can show us in testing, but man, if he can show me in a race, I might be on board, but he can't change my mind.
He's a world champion, and he's had a lot of race wins with Yamaha. I always equate the Yamaha thing to Ben Spies. I mean, look at his experience with Yamaha. He's going around a corner and the shock fell out. I think Yamaha can, maybe not treat their second tier rider so well, and the bike gets developed for Rossi. I don't know. There was a lot of stuff going on there. It's hard hard to point. What I do know is that he is one of the fastest human beings on a bike when all is clicking for that guy. And I would like to see all click for that guy for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Maverick he's got the talent for sure. It's
performance anxiety.
I mean, I've been watching Maverick for like 8 years now, and it's always the same issue. Something in the mind just kind of unplugs, and that raw talent just goes away somewhere. But I don't know if he can get past that. He will be a championship winner. Like I was saying before, I'm like, he should be fighting Pecco right now for the championship. I think if Maverick was on his A game, he would be faster than Pecco. I think he has it, but for whatever reason, there's something there. Like we always keep saying for years now, there's something there that's not quite clicking. That's, I think, slowing him down. But
I think there's something to be said for each instance this year. I completely agree with your sentiment. It's always been disappointing, but I always hang on as a true fan. But I think it's also how close the bikes are. The Aprilia is there, but when you have a bad start or you have this or that, or you don't make Q2 or whatever, your weekend's done. I mean, it's just done at that point. It's so difficult. If you're not on,
unless you're Brad Binder.
Brad Binder. If you're not named Brad Binder or on the front two rows, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's going to be nice to watch Mugello. It's going to be nice to see them go to a really fast track, something completely different after this 3-week break. So.
Yeah, and then Alex Marquez and Luca Marini. I mean, I know that was another racing incident, but man, Alex has some bad luck. Yeah, I'd never heard any checkup updates either on Luca. I guess he's okay.
I think Luca's okay. I actually got really scared because I thought of like Somicelli when that happened. I was like, oh wow, that's a very similar type of crash.
Right in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got away with one there. That could have been way, way ugly. I watched that replay, and Alex Marquez was crawling on all fours before he'd even stopped sliding because he could feel the heat and bikes. He was in their path. That was a very dangerous situation there. And he was very lucky not to get collected or hit. And good job to those guys behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that shows you, just a little off topic, I know Quadraro tested that ship-to-shore emergency radio system at the Jerez test last time. And their main thrust for that is for those kind of situations. And again, I don't know if race control can get a message on a dash or in your ear that quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not fully on board with that. I just feel like the riders already have so much else to deal with that sending more information at them via voice or hearing, I mean, I just feel like that's dangerous.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it. I'm an old school guy. I wish we could get rid of the wings and some of this traction control and watch people do it with their right wrist again. I mean, I miss wheelies. I mean, half the battle of going around a racetrack was keeping the front wheel down with your right hand or your right foot on the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
That's all done for you now, and it doesn't diminish from the talent, but it's a different spectacle, right? Yeah. So
I would also like to raise that if it wasn't for these sprint races that we've had, which I think have been fantastic so far this year, but if it wasn't for the sprint races, Pecco would be nowhere in sight for the championship because he's got 3 DNFs right now.
Yeah.
Great point, Dustin. Again, it has changed the whole thing. Like I said, it feels like a complete shakeup. Even as a viewer on the weekends, Friday is very exciting because that basically sets you for Q2.
Yeah.
And then you got the sprint and the qualifying on Saturday, and then the race on Sunday. So it's complete, and I love it. I was kind of not sure at the beginning of the year, but I love the sprints. I like what they've done.
What do you guys think for Mugello? What are our predictions? Who's going to be up there?
Wow, Ducati.
Yeah, long 1.1 mile straight. Yeah, I think Ducati's probably going to be there.
Yeah.
But who? I mean, there's 8 of them.
Let's see. Last year it was Bagnaia. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dustin.
I'm going to go way left field, and I'm going to say Enea Bastianini wins this race.
Okay.
I'm going with Bastianini just because he's crazy. And then I'm going to go with Bender second, and then I'm going to do Jorge Martin third.
I like it. What do you say, Tim?
Well, I guess we do have to factor in Bastianini, huh? The beast is back.
I think he's just gonna throw it down, man. Like he's just gonna be like, "You guys been missing me. I'm gonna come out and." I mean, it's like a 10% chance of happening, but if it does happen, he's gonna win.
Well, I'm gonna go with. I actually think Martin for the win. I think Bagnaia would be a better choice, but I'm gonna go with Martin for the win. Bastianini, I'm gonna go with Bagnaia for second, and I think I'm gonna go with Maverick Vinales getting on the podium for third.
You'd be safer with one of the VR46 guys.
Yeah, I know, but I think the chips can only roll against you so much. It's a track they do well at. Aleix was on the podium, only 1.9 seconds off last year. I think the Aprilia is going to go well at Mugello, and I think Aprilia is due for a little bounce back on a podium finally. So that's who I'm going to go with. We'll go with Martin, Bagnaia, and Maverick.
I'm going to go with Luca, first place, Bagnaia second, and Bezzecchi third.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Nice safe choices there. Yeah, Bezzecchi, right? He's on top of the world right now.
Yeah, I think Pecco's going to be gunning for him just because he's in the points lead. That's who he's scared of. I think no one's going to care what Luca does, so he's going to run away with it. But I think Pecco is going to fight Bezzecchi from now on.
I don't think Pecco's going to finish the race. That's why I didn't put him on the podium.
He might not finish the sprint, but I think he'll finish the GP.
I think Martin's in for it. I think if he's learned to stop falling off, I think he's every bit of a threat on Sundays as he is in the sprints.
Well, if you remember last year, Martin, he did really well throughout the season, and then the second half of the season, he just kind of unraveled. So I don't know if maybe it's the tracks that he didn't like, or what, but I feel like his consistency and the later tracks isn't there. But maybe he'll show me different.
I think he had a lot to learn, though, because during that time, it was him and Enea butting heads, like who's going to get that factory seat. So there's a lot of pressure on both those guys, and I think that was mentally getting to him. And I feel like this time, like he's got more of an understanding, and he's going to be able to focus at a higher level. So I think, like, skill-wise, like, Jorge Martin's amazing. Once he starts putting it together, he's like an upgraded version of Maverick Vinales, is what I would say.
He's a sprint king.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think a little bit of that monkey off his back. He's a little bit more relaxed this year. There's none of that going on. And yeah, how he dealt with Marquez and stayed calm, and looks like he's finishing the races. He's got the speed. He's always had the speed.
All right, guys. Well, let's stay tuned for the race and see how our predictions come out. Look forward to talking to you guys next week if you can make the show. Thanks.
See ya.
Have a great week. Thanks for having us, Dr. Speed. Dustin, good to see you.
See ya.
Yes, sir.